Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith Atibi, and here are the stories making headlines or rounds beyond the continent. And we begin in the U.S., where the OECD is warning that tariffs imposed by former U.S. President Donald Trump on key trade partners are set to weigh heavily on global economic activities. Speaking at the OECD Council meeting, Secretary General Mathias Cormann, he outlined a more pessimistic outlook for global growth with a sharp focus on the United States. According to the OECD, U.S. GDP growth is expected to drop significantly from 2.8% last year to 1.6% this year, and even lower to 1.5% next year. The organization cites rising trade tensions and ongoing uncertainty as key factors dragging down growth. The warning adds to growing concerns about how protectionist trade policies could stall recovery and slow momentum in an already fragile global economy.
In the United States, growth is expected to slow. The main headwinds are lower export growth as a result of retaliatory measures from some trading partners, the impact of high policy uncertainty, and a marked slowdown in net immigration. US GDP growth is projected to decline from 2.8% last year to 1.6% this year and 1.5% next year. In the euro area, growth is expected to strengthen modestly from 0.8% in 2024 to 1% this year and 1.2% next year. Improved credit conditions as a result of monetary policy easing and increased investment from next generation EU funds will help offset the impact of pressures on trade. Emerging Asia, that is China, India, Indonesia, and 7 other dynamic Asian economies, continues to account for more than half of global growth. Still, the increase in tariffs will weaken growth in China, while fiscal measures such as subsidies for consumer goods help cushion the slowdown. We expect growth to moderate from 5% last year to 4.7% in 2025 and 4.3% in 2026.
We also downgraded our forecasts for the world economy. So as we heard, right now our forecast is a growth of about 2.9%. But the most important thing, if you see this graph, if you see this table in terms of numbers, and you see the next, which is basically gives you the G20, non-G20 economies, it doesn't matter if you are a G20 economy, a non-G20 economy, if you are big or if you are a small economy, if you are open or relatively more closed, we downgraded almost everybody in terms of our.
Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Donald Trump remains firmly behind his massive spending bill, despite harsh criticism from Elon Musk. Speaking to reporters, Leavitt dismissed Musk's description of the legislation as a disgusting abomination, saying the president, and saying, quote, I'm going to quote her here, quote, the president already knows where Elon Musk stands on this bill. It doesn't change his opinion, end quote. She added that Musk's remarks have drawn attention amid broader concerns over the bill's scale and scope, but the White House made it clear that the president is not backing down from what it views as a landmark piece of legislation.
President Trump is going to be when he finds out that Elon Musk said, I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it.
Look, the president already knows where Elon Musk stood on this bill. It doesn't change the president's opinion. This is one big, beautiful bill, and he's sticking to it.
The standoff between the United States and Iran over its nuclear program is heating up once again. President Donald Trump has ruled out any uranium enrichment in a potential deal with Tehran, a move that inflamed tensions and put the fragile talks in jeopardy. Iran is pushing back hard, saying it has nothing to hide and insisting on its right to peaceful nuclear technology. International correspondent Afia Hagen has the latest on the escalating row that could have global consequences. Take a look.
Once again rising between Washington and Tehran as nuclear negotiations hit a new stumbling block. US President Donald Trump has ruled out any uranium enrichment under a potential nuclear deal with Iran, intensifying a standoff that threatens to unravel months of fragile diplomacy. On Monday, Trump took to social media, declaring, "Under our potential agreement, we will not allow any enrichment of uranium." His remarks came after reports that the latest US proposal might allow limited low-level enrichment in Iran, a red line for Trump. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi responded from Cairo, saying Iran's nuclear program is for peaceful purposes only, and warned no deal would be possible if the aim was to deprive Iran of that right. The International Atomic Energy Agency is also raising concerns. A leaked report revealed that Iran has increased uranium enrichment to 60% purity, edging closer to weapons-grade levels. Iran rejected the report, accusing some countries of using it as a pretext for further sanctions. Iranian officials warned they would retaliate against what they see as Western attempts to isolate Tehran. Meanwhile, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi called for calm, urging both sides to avoid a regional war. The US envoy for nuclear talks, Steve Witkoff, doubled down on Washington's stance. An enrichment program can never exist in the state of Iran ever again. That's our red line, he said. Iran insists that sanctions relief must be part of any agreement, but American negotiators say they won't budge on uranium enrichment. The standoff is rattling global markets and raising fears of a wider conflict. Iran has vowed to keep enriching uranium with or without a deal, making prospects for a breakthrough uncertain. With both sides refusing to compromise, the window for diplomacy may be closing fast. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Chile's airport anti-narcotics squad has arrested a 79-year-old British man after seizing 5.1 kilos of meth from his suitcase. Authorities say the man had just arrived from Cancun, Mexico, and was set to spend a night in Santiago before continuing his journey to Sydney, Australia. According to airport police chief, and that's Sergio Paredes, the drugs were hidden in 6 separate packages and were discovered during a routine luggage inspection. The meth is estimated to represent over 5,100 doses with a street value of around $270,000 US. This was the man's first time entering Chile, and he now faces serious drug trafficking charges as authorities continue their investigation.
Realizada por la Brigada Antinarcótico de Aeropuerto en coordinación con el Servicio Nacional de Aduana relacionado con la detención de un ciudadano de nacionalidad británica quien al llegar a nuestro país en un vuelo procedente desde Cancún y al ser revisado su equipaje, su maleta en específico, fueron descubiertos 5 kilos 100 gramos de metanfetamina. Esta persona provenía, como dije, desde México y al ser detenida y trasladada hasta las dependencias de la Brigada Antinarcótico de Aeropuerto, señaló que esa maleta había sido recibida por de parte de unas personas, unos ciudadanos de nacionalidad mexicana, en el aeropuerto de Cancún. En esa circunstancia, él se trasladó hasta nuestro país, donde debía alojar una noche en un hotel del centro de la capital, para posteriormente abordar un vuelo que debía trasladarlo hasta Sydney, Australia. Bueno, dentro de la dinámica de la investigación que realizaron los detectives de la Brigada Antinarcótico de Aeropuerto, se pudo establecer que la cantidad total de droga incautada correspondían a 5 kilos 100 gramos de metanfetamina. Esta droga en dosis, estamos hablando de 5.100 dosis, evaluada en alrededor de 255 millones de pesos.
And up to Europe, where British MPs from across the political spectrum are calling on the UK government to take urgent action to secure the release of Allah Abdul Fattah, the Egyptian British activist imprisoned in Cairo. Speaking outside a London hospital, Brendan O'Hara, the interim head of a cross-party group on detention and hostage affairs, described the imprisonment as an arbitrary and illegal detention of a British citizen. Allah's mother, Leila Soifi, has been hospitalized after nearly 250 days on hunger strike in protest of her son's continued detention. Also present was Sana Saif, who is Allah's sister, who joined MPs in urging stronger diplomatic efforts. Abdel Fattah has become a symbol of Egypt's crackdown on dissent and civil liberties.
First of all, let's be absolutely clear. This is an arbitrary detention. This is an illegal detention of a British citizen. And the fact that we are now standing outside of a hospital where Allah's mum is seriously ill, and still the UK government would go beyond that claim that they're doing all that they can. There are trade issues that they can look at. There are travel issues that they can look at. There are so many different levers that the UK government has at its disposal, which it seems totally reluctant to use.
We think the only thing that will shift CC is direct representations from the Prime Minister again. But we've tried the carrot, now we need more of the stick, and part of that, I think, is this threat to tourism in Egypt. That might make them realise their responsibilities to Allah and to release.
The doctors told me that probably her body has found something to burn, like a pocket, but it could be dangerous fat. It could be fat that is holding her organs together, and it's very limited. But yeah, I mean, she's fighting. Her body's fighting, and she's with us. And I hope the folks at Number 10 and the Foreign Office use this time her body has given us well. The second day after we arrived in hospital, the Foreign Office were like giving me updates on their plans, and their plans were still in weeks. And I pushed back hard and I said that we don't have weeks, we're going by the hour. Like they were measuring her vitals every hour. At some point it was every 15 minutes. I expressed my frustration how it is insane that they're thinking in weeks.
And off to France, where political figures gathered in Paris to bid farewell to Jean Tiberi, the city's last right-wing mayor, during a funeral service at the Saint-Étienne-du-Mont church. Tiberi, a close ally of former President Jacques Chirac, was remembered as a dedicated servant of the city. He was passionate about Paris, and those words are directly from his former colleague that's now describing him as modest and humble. François Pomponi, former MP for Val d'Oise, called him the last of Jacques Chirac's men, while brushing aside questions about the scandals that clouded Tiberi's final years in office, saying, quote, "That's all part of political life." Tiberi led Paris from 1995 to 2001 and left a lasting mark on the capital's political landscape.
J'ai connu Jean Tiberi il y a très longtemps, au temps où Chirac était maire de Paris, et Jean Tiberi était un passionné de Paris, et je crois que sa joie, ça a été d'être maire de Paris. C'est quelqu'un qui, dans son arrondissement, l'avait marqué profondément. Si vous interrogez les habitants, il y avait une espèce d'identification du 5e arrondissement à Tiberi. Et évidemment, c'est une page qui se tourne.
Bon, écoutez, l'hommage qui vient de lui être rendu dans cette église est un hommage à un homme toujours simple, humble, toujours au service des habitants de Paris, et avec lequel il était vraiment agréable de travailler parce qu'il respectait tout le monde, il faisait confiance à ceux dont il avait reconnu l'expertise, et il était vraiment un homme charmant et surtout très dévoué à sa ville et à ses habitants.
L'année chiracien, et puis je répète, il y a l'aspect Paris chiracien c'était un homme fidèle jusqu'au bout, et puis c'était cette génération, il y a eu beaucoup d'élus corses à Paris ou dans les Hauts-de-Seine, c'était cette dernière génération aussi de Corses, partis de Corse, et qui avaient réussi leur vie politique à Paris et en France, dans les Hauts-de-Seine en particulier, mais qui avaient réussi au plus haut niveau, et c'était un peu un exemple pour la jeunesse corse de l'époque.
Le souvenir de la ville qui était gérée, je dirais, avec une majorité différente, essentiellement. C'était un combat politique où les sujets parisiens prédominaient et où l'État s'intéressait à Paris, ce qui n'est plus tellement le cas.
France's Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau has condemned the recent killing of a Tunisian man in the Var region as a clearly racist crime, possibly anti-Muslim, and potentially a terrorist act. Addressing the National Assembly on Tuesday, the Interior Minister emphasized that racism is not France and that the Republic does not discriminate based on race, origin, or belief. The victim was found in Puget Sar Urgens with 5 gunshot wounds. A Turkish national was also injured. The National Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office is now leading the investigation, marking the first time it is taking on a case involving a racist homicide linked to the far right. Retailleau vowed justice would be uncompromising, calling the act an anti-French crime.
Il a été prémédité et il est signé. Il était prémédité puisqu'il y a eu des vidéos, nous avons saisi des armes dans la voiture, mais surtout, il est signé. C'est clairement un crime raciste. C'est un crime sans doute aussi anti-musulman et peut-être aussi un crime terroriste puisque le PNAT a été saisi.
Let's go on a short break. When we return, we'll tell you that Israeli military to probe Gaza's aid distribution tragedy that has now killed 27. The details of this after this break. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. We continue with Europe, where Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof has criticized far-right MP Geert Wilders for withdrawing his party from the ruling coalition, calling the move unnecessary and irresponsible. Speaking to reporters in The Hague, Schoof said he had repeatedly urged all 4 coalition leaders to avoid a government collapse. And I'm going to quote him. He says, "In recent days, I have made it clear that the fall of the cabinet was both unnecessary and irresponsible," end quote. The unexpected withdrawal by Wilders has thrown Dutch politics into uncertainty, prompting the collapse of the cabinet. Schoof confirmed he will remain in a caretaker role until a new government is formed, which is likely to happen after new elections are held.
Heeft het kabinet hard gewerkt aan de uitvoering daarvan. Maar als bij één partij de wil ontbreekt om daarmee door te gaan, kan je niet met elkaar verder. In de ministerraad hebben we gesproken over de ontstane situatie en geconcludeerd dat met het vertrek van de PVV er onvoldoende draagvlak is in de Tweede Kamer voor dit kabinet. Dat betekent dat ik direct hierna naar de koning ga om het ontslag van de PVV-bewindspersonen aan te bieden. De overige bewindspersonen gaan demissionair door. Een kopie van de ontslagaanvraag stuur ik ook aan de Tweede en Eerste Kamer. De afgelopen dagen heb ik alle 4 fractievoorzitters meermaals laten weten dat de val van het kabinet wat mij betreft onnodig en onverantwoord.
As for now, attention now to Gaza's humanitarian disaster. As UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the deaths of Palestinians seeking food aid in Gaza, calling the situation unacceptable and the scale of loss unthinkable. In a statement delivered by his spokesperson, and that's Stefan Dujarric, on Tuesday, Guterres expressed deep concern over civilians being killed or injured while simply trying to access humanitarian assistance. He says, quote, "It is unacceptable that civilians are risking and in many cases losing their lives just trying to get food," end quote. These remarks come amid growing international alarm over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where shortages of food, water, and medical supplies continue to worsen under the ongoing conflict.
I can tell you that once again we are witnessing unthinkable loss of life in Gaza. The Secretary General condemns the loss of lives and injuries of Palestinians seeking aid in Gaza. It is unacceptable. Civilians are risking and in several instances losing their lives just trying to get food. Palestinians have the fundamental right to adequate food and to be free from hunger. The Secretary General continues to call for an immediate and independent investigation into these events and for the perpetrators to be held to account.
Israel's military says it is investigating an incident on Tuesday near an aid distribution center in Gaza where 27 people were reportedly killed. According to Army spokesperson Ifi Rif, Israeli forces fired warning shots about half a kilometer from the aid site, targeting individuals they say were approaching in a manner that posed a threat to soldiers' safety. The International Committee of the Red Cross reported that the incident resulted in 27 deaths, raising fresh concerns over the growing toll on civilians amid the ongoing conflict. The military says it is reviewing the circumstances surrounding the event as pressure mounts for accountability in Gaza.
מוקדם יותר היום, כוחות צה"ל ביצעו ירי הרחקה כחצי קילומטר ממתחם החלוקה לעבר חשודים שהתקרבו לעברם באופן שסיכן את ביטחונם, את ביטחון הלוחמים. האירוע מתוחקר וגם פה נגיע לחקר האמת. אנחנו לא מונעים הגעה של תושבי עזה למתחמי חלוקת הסיוע. ההפך הוא הנכון. אנחנו מאפשרים. חמאס הוא זה שמונע. אני ער לביקורת על משך הזמן שלוקח לבדוק את האירועים, אך לא נדווח מידע ופרטים שאינם אמת. האמינות היא קריטית, הגם שהיא לוקחת זמן.
North to Southeast Asia, as ballot counting is underway in Seoul following the close of voting in South Korea's presidential election. Early exit polls indicate a decisive lead for Lee Jae-myung of the left-leaning Democratic Party. If confirmed, his victory would mark a sweeping win after months of political turbulence in the country. Voter turnout was reported to be high, reflecting strong public engagement in an election shaped by economic concern, as well as corruption scandals and calls for reform. Lee, a former provincial governor, campaigned on promises of economic equality and political accountability. Election officials continue to sort and tally the ballots as the nation awaits the official results. All eyes will be on Korea, and pretty much that's all we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember that if you see anything out there, make sure to send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, please follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23. We're also on StarTimes Finals channel 274, Apple TV, and live 24/7 on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Up next is E Central. For me, it's good night.